Dear listeners of the AUIB FM 101.5, in a country with a population over 46 million, genetic diseases represent a growing yet often overlooked public health challenge in Iraq, particularly in a society where relatives' marriage remains common. Genetic counseling is a cornerstone of modern healthcare, helping individuals and families to understand inherited conditions, assess risks, and make informed decisions. Despite its global importance, the awareness and availability of genetic counseling in Iraq remain limited. And in this episode of Meet the Experts, we are pleased to welcome Dr. Danielle Pedro from the College of Arts and Science here at AUIB, and also Dr. Pedro is a recipient of a grant from Agence Universitaire de la Francophonie, AUF, and is collaborating with Professor Andre Megarbani. He's a leading expert here in genetics at the Lebanese American universities, and also their project aims to provide free genetic counseling and genetic testing services to Iraqi patients while also assessing public awareness and promoting a broader understanding of this vital field. Together, dear listeners, we will explore what we know about genetic counseling in Iraq, who should be involved, and what steps are needed to move forward in this field. And before that, we say hello and welcome to Dr. Bedro here with us at Meet the Expert segment in the Uni-Voice show first.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dr. Bedro, just before we dive deep into this really important topic today, I want you to introduce yourself to the listeners.
Sure. So I'm Danielle Pedro. I'm a molecular oncologist. So I'm a trained academic in the field interested in finding out what are the genetic and molecular reasons that may lead to cancer in children, but also in the fetus, like the child as it is developing in the mother's womb. It's truly a very difficult field from an emotional standpoint because we're looking into what is causing cancer in children. But at the same time, diving into this discipline allows you as well to understand how the human body develops, what could possibly go wrong during development and may lead to diseases right before birth or after birth. So I joined the UIB 3.5 years ago already. I'm an associate professor in the College of Arts and Sciences, and like most academic people do, I apply for grant applications to try and be awarded some funding for my research. And I teach here. I also do some research, as we're going to talk about today. And I've been having a wonderful time with the students, teaching them anatomy, embryology, head and neck anatomy as well. So today we won't be talking about teaching, we'll be talking about research, but I truly value my time here.
First, Dr. Danielle, I want to ask you, what is genetic counseling and how does it differ from the genetic testing alone? What's the difference between them?
That's actually the best question you could ask me to start the discussion. So genetic counseling is a branch of medicine that is interested in analyzing the DNA of patients and inform them of their risk of developing a disease such as cancer or a disease of the heart, cardiovascular disease. But it can also, depending on who the patient is and the purpose of the genetic counseling being done, it can also inform the patient on the risk of their offspring. So what is the risk that a mother, a father have in having children who have a genetic disease? So genetic counseling is a multi-step process. First of all, it's usually conducted by a medical doctor, tabib, a medical doctor who specializes in genetics. And usually he or she will be approached by, let's say, parents who suffer from a given genetic disease. Let's say the father has a severe disease of the heart, or the mother has had cancer very early on in her life, and they're concerned that one of their children might develop any of their diseases one day. So they will take an appointment, have first what we call genetic counseling session, and during this session the medical doctor is going to discuss about them, about their current health, their past health issues, but will also ask about the health of their family members. Like the doctor is going to ask each of the mother and the father, does any of your family members have had cancer before? Do they have any severe cardiovascular disease, so on and so forth? And he or she is going to draw what we call a pedigree, a family tree that shows all the diseases in the family. And then the doctor is going to take what we call the informed consent. It means that before the doctor takes any sample, let's say blood or any other type of sample, to analyze the DNA in it, the doctor has to actually collect informed consent from the parents, meaning that he's going to get them sign a document that is called an informed consent, in which they clearly indicate that they've understood why the doctor is going to take a sample from them, what tests will be run on the sample, and what results may possibly come out. Like they accept the fact that some scary results may come out of it, and they're ready to hear what the doctor will have to tell them. So during this step, which is very important, that we call the informed consenting, the patient is allowed and should be asking every possible question that may cross their mind, and make sure that they're exactly understanding what's happening about them. And once they sign the consent, the medical doctor is going to retrieve a sample from them. It could be a blood sample, it could be some cells taken from the inner cheek using a small soft brush, and then the sample will be taken to the lab and the DNA will be analyzed. So all of that happens during the first counseling session: the discussion, the consenting, and the collection of the sample. And
this
then
is
in
so
the lab,
deep that you are ready to facing the truth, the ugly truth maybe.
So actually there is some sort of anxiety that may come with the results once they are out, but at the end of the day, the patients came because they need to know, because they want to know what's the risk on them or on their descendants. And if you know if your child may be born or might develop a disease one day in life, you will know that you have to do regular checkups, that you have to do regular blood checks, and in some cases the genetic disease can be treated provided that the treatment is given very early on in life. So when the parents know that there is a certain risk that their child might have a disease, they will be on the lookout, they will be aware, and they will be following up closely. And this is the importance of genetic counseling. So once the sample goes to the lab, the DNA will be analyzed, the experts are going to look at these results, and then the medical doctor is going to ask the parents to see them again. And this is the second genetic counseling session. And during that second session, the doctor is going to tell the parents, look, we analyzed your DNA, there is actually no risk on your future children, you don't have to worry, so on and so forth. Or it could be the other case scenario, which is usually what happens. The doctor is going to tell the parents, look, this is the risk. There is a 25% risk, there is a 50% risk, there is maybe 100% risk that your child will be born with that disease or might develop any time in their lifetime.
So in this condition, doctor, if they found out that there is a health issues or problems in the future for their kids and they can avoid it by themselves as a partner, you will help them with that?
We actually don't take care of that part, because at the end of the day, it's the parents' decision to decide whether they want to go on with having children or not. But at least we give them all the information they need to take action as early as possible.
Just to be aware.
Absolutely. Like some diseases are invisible at birth, especially what we call the inborn diseases. So the child is born, but you don't know that within their body there is a mechanism going wrong, a development occurring abnormally. But at least if you tell the parents that there is this risk, they will probably take their child more frequently to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician will be adding more follow-up and checkups on the child. And if indeed the disease develops, which usually happens when this is what the genetic counseling said, at least they were aware, they knew, they got ready for it, even from an emotional standpoint or even medical, you know.
That's really important. Well, Dr. Daniel, why is genetic counseling particularly important in societies with high rates of relatives marriage, such as Iraq? I mean, I think you found out these things in Iraq, so you decided to do this research here.
Yeah, I'm not really the person who found out that within family marriages were frequent. This is what we call consanguinity. Actually, it's been known for decades, and it's been published in the literature, in the bibliography. And in some regions of Iraq, the percentage of consanguinity can reach 45%. Now, usually when there is a disease running in a family, let's say a heart disease, there is a higher risk that the children of cousins getting married together will have that disease as well, simply because we have a disease running in the family. So it's highly expected that first degree or second degree cousins both have the disease or carry the disease, meaning have it but don't show the symptoms yet. So there is a higher risk that if we marry within the family, we bring together the genes causing these diseases, and that the children are going to have it as well. While when you have two completely unrelated people from different families coming from different regions, the probability that they have in their DNA the same genetic anomalies and bringing them together would be much lower. So consanguinity is very frequent everywhere in the Middle East, and this is why there is a huge need for genetic counseling.
Well, Dr. Daniel, which groups should be most aware of genetic counseling? Are premarital couples the primary focus, or are there other key populations that they should do this test?
They are definitely, and they're so different. So for example, if there is a family where there is a recurrent type of cancer that keeps coming back, for example, the grandmother had this cancer and then her own daughter and then the daughter of the daughter, so obviously there is this specific type of cancer that is running in the family. These groups or these family members are highly advised to actually do a genetic testing and have it done within a genetic counseling process. A second group that I can use as an example is, for example, a father or a mother that has already a severe genetic disease, a severe neurological disease, muscular disease, bone disease, and they're concerned that their child may have it as well, or their child to be. So these couples are also strongly advised. And of course, when there is a case of consanguineous marriage, when cousins, especially first or second degree cousins, are getting married together, there is as well a higher risk by definition that they have children with genetic diseases. So they're strongly recommended to come forth as well.
So for them, it's not optional. They should do that test or genetic counseling.
No, it's their free will. It's a freedom of choice. But the idea is that we wish, as an educational institution who's seeking to care for the public health, this is what AUIB would like to develop, genetic counseling services here on campus to give the option for these group populations to come forth and do the test. But it's not mandated by the Iraqi law. It's not, they don't have to, but of course it's better if they do it.
So, from an academic perspective, Doctor, is genetic counseling currently taught as distinct subject in Iraq universities, and where do you see the main educational gaps here in this topic?
Very interesting. So basically, yes, genetics is a discipline that is being taught throughout this country, but genetic counseling as a specialty, no. And the specialty itself doesn't really exist in Iraq. Now, to go back to the question you were asking earlier and to link it to this one, actually, the Iraqi law mandates certain genetic tests to be done before couples get married. For example, all couples before they get married, they have to test themselves for thalassemia. Beta thalassemia and other types of thalassemia, which is a type of blood disease. So usually when it's a severe case of thalassemia, the patient has to undergo blood transfusions weekly. It gets to the point where it becomes weekly. So does it mean that couples cannot get married if they test positive? it's up to them, but the government, the Iraqi government, mandates them to actually do this test. So genetics is known in Iraq, very well known, but genetic counseling is much less known and not available.
Really? That's really interesting. Yes. So how important is to integrate genetic counseling into medical and health sciences curricula nowadays, not only theoretically, but also through practical and also clinical training here?
It's very important. And actually, I'm saying this not because I've done like statistics or specific studies on that, but since we started this project, and I'll talk in a minute about what this project is exactly about, we saw how interested the patients were. Basically, every single patient we approached, and we had a total of 14, all of them, with the exception of one couple, wanted to enroll in our study or use genetic counseling services outside of our project, because these were specific types of tests that are not included in our study. So we see that the people want to use genetic counseling, and they always ask us, but why isn't it available? Why did we have to wait until there was your research so we could do genetic counseling here within our own country? And this is what we're trying to provide. As researchers at UIB, this is what we're trying to bring, to answer to a specific need, public health need within the Iraqi population. So if we're thinking one day to develop genetic counseling in Iraq, which I hope is going to happen through AUIB or through other institutions, it means that we need to educate future graduates on genetic counseling and what it exactly means.
That's why I want to ask you this question. What challenges hinder the translation of genetic knowledge from universities into accessible genetic counseling service for the public? Because it's new in the universities that people want to study this topic, want to study this field and be experts in this field.
So basically it requires some funds and a certain level of expertise. So basically you need specific equipment, specific machines to run the DNA samples. And then the analysis step can be a little bit complicated. Reading through billions of small letters, this is very simply our DNA is made of, can be very complicated. So there is a certain level of expertise and training that is needed in order to confidently return a result to the patient and be 100% sure of what you're telling the patient, because you cannot tell the patient, oh yes, you have a 75% risk of developing cancer one day in your life, while their risk is actually 0. I mean, this is other than very unprofessional, it's actually unethical to give such statistics when you're not sure of them. So the training itself, AIB would have the ability to provide, no problem. We have the right gray matter, we have the right people, we have the right collaborators. We're developing by bringing in the equipment that we need, but we also have to raise the interest of the students for them to enroll in such studies. So genetic counseling doesn't exist as a major or a minor program, but eventually we're going to get there.
It's a research right now.
It's a research right now.
Is there any AUIB students are interested to go into this topic or this research?
We have two of them. Okay. We have two of them that are currently helping them. I'm not going to name them because I don't know if they want their names to be broadcasted, but we have two of them. One enrolled in the biology major in the College of Arts and Sciences, another one in pharmacy. And this research is actually funded, as you mentioned earlier, by the Agence Universitaire de la Francophonie, which is a French-speaking university agency, and it's the largest in the world. And they actually awarded me a funding to conduct and start sort of genetic counseling here in Iraq. And this research is done in collaboration with Professor André Mgarbani, who is the chair of the Human Genetics Department at the Lebanese American University in Beirut. And he's one of the best known medical doctors who specialize in genetics around the world. He's a superstar in this field, and it's been truly an honor to work with him and have him aboard this project. And we're looking to extend this work beyond the specific scope of this research. And for this research, we're actually offering the genetic testing for free, but of course it's normally very expensive, and once the research stops, we're going to have to to stop offering these tests for free as well, unfortunately.
Well, we hope to do that in the future easily for all the people, because it's really important for them and their health. I want to ask you, how feasible is it to offer genetic counseling as a free or low-cost service here in Iraq? Because it's a research now here at AUIB. Is it free for everyone, or there is a specific number of people you can have?
We can actually test up to 10 patients for free, and we're reaching this number. We're going to reach
How many of them until now you have?
6.
Really?
Yes.
That's a good number.
That's a good number. And you know, just to give you an idea, if you want to analyze the entire DNA of an individual, here in Iraq, it costs $800. And we're covering this for free.
Okay.
And yes, genetic testing here in Iraq has been expensive, but you know, if it becomes a service, if there is a demand, automatically the prices are going to go low, or at least lower. And this is what we want to do. We want people to come forward, to be interested in genetic counseling, to understand how important it is to protect their own health, but also the health of their children.
So, in a deep perspective from you, what ethical, cultural, or social challenges might arise when implementing genetic counseling services within Iraqi society?
That's the other aspect of genetic counseling that is extremely important. We're not telling, and you know, genetic counseling has existed for 40, 50 years, but it was not as advanced as it is right now. We're in no way telling parents, future parents, don't have children because there is that risk. Okay, they probably, especially if they're cousins, they're already aware of the fact that there is an increased risk that their daughter or their son might have a given disease one day. But what we provide them with are statistics, numbers that clearly tell them what's the risk, so they can increase their level of awareness and be on the lookout. If we tell them there is a 25% risk that your child might be born with a disease, it sounds different than a 75%. The other thing is that sometimes their general practitioner or their pediatrician is not aware that there is a high risk on their child. So if they do the genetic counseling, they would know it, and they would tell the doctor, look, doc, we've seen a genetic counselor, and he or she told us that this is the risk on our child. What can we do about it? And sometimes a treatment can be given to the child very early on in life, even before the disease shows, even before we see the symptoms. So genetic counseling is guidance. We are in no way telling the individual, the patient, or the parents what to do. It was never the case, and it's not going to be the case here either.
Okay, so now we reach the most important question here. What role can the American University of Iraq Baghdad, AUIB, play in advancing genetic counseling, education, research, and community services?
There is so much that we can do. First of all, we have the know-how, and that's, I would say, the most difficult part. So we as faculty members and researchers now know how to conduct this science, and we know the right people outside of Iraq, and I think it makes it even better when we're open to other universities located abroad and have access to their expertise as well. So that's in terms of know-how and knowledge. In terms of equipment and hardware, we're getting there, but we're just testing the waters to see how much demand there will be. But we are ready because we know how to use the machines, we know how to maintain them, so on and so forth.
Okay.
The third aspect is actually related to ethics. There is a very specific way of collecting the consent of the patients, in storing the samples, storing the data. And we've been working for 20 years plus in research with patients. We exactly know how to proceed without making any mistakes, and by safeguarding the privacy, anonymity, confidentiality of the medical files and the samples that are in our hands. Okay. As to developing programs, we're ready to start anytime. Same thing again, we have the know-how, we know exactly how to develop the curricula, we know exactly one by one what courses to include in these curricula, so we are ready to start anytime. We're just waiting to complete the study, sit with our collaborators and colleagues, come up with our conclusions, and then build upon that our next step and our next achievement.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with this mission.
Thank you.
With this educational mission. Finally, Dr. Danielle, what message would you like to share with individuals, healthcare professionals, and policymakers about the future of genetic counseling in Iraq?
The first thing I would say is that genetic counseling is very much needed in the country. You mentioned earlier that we have a very large population demography in the country, and it is estimated that more than 2 million patients in Iraq have a genetic disease, suffer from a genetic disease. And genetic counseling services should be available. We heard so many times parents telling us, my child was born with this disease and I didn't know who to go to, who to turn to. Who am I supposed to consult? How do I know if my next child is going to have the same disease? Is there any treatment? And actually, this medical guidance is part of genetic counseling. So when you think that there are 2 million patients out there that need our support, you're like, we have to supply, and yes. Absolutely, we have to respond to their call and answer their needs. So I would tell you that Iraq is definitely a country that needs genetic counseling. The country, I'm sure, is open to that idea because there is already premarital genetic testing that is done, which is the case of the beta thalassemia. AUIB is more than ready to develop such services, and we really want the people to come forward, not to be scared of genetic counseling, because we're actually, it's an extra tool that is given to them, extra information. Why not take it? This is what we tell them. It can only help you make decisions for yourselves and for your children or your future children.
Well, Dr. Danielle Pedro from the College of Arts and Sciences here at AUIB, and also a recipient of a grant from the Agence Universitaire de la Francophonie, the AUF. I pronounced it very well.
Brilliant.
Okay, thank you so much.
Well done.
It was a really honor to have you with us today here at the Uni-Voice show and meet the expert segments. If you have anything to say at the end, the mic is yours.
The honor was mine, and thank you for giving me this platform to talk about our project, because the message is so important, and the best way to discuss about it is simply to broadcast it and make sure that as many people as possible can hear about it. So thank you very much for having me.
You're more than welcome anytime, anywhere you want, here at AUIB, in the studio, out of the studio. We are ready to cover all these important topics from you professors here at AUIB. Thank you so much,
dear.
You're welcome.
You. Bye-bye.